Go.
Just a note for people. That's loud. Harbor Freight is in Hayward, and they have the best deals on cheap tools and materials. This little Bauer shop vac is super strong, super loud. That's why I won't use it on camera other than that one time. But be sure and do this in a well-ventilated space, or even outside, or just make sure you're vacuuming and picking up right away so that we don't get sawdust all over your house, and whoever you're living with will be happy that you didn't leave sawdust everywhere. Okay, so I did the pinholes on here. So now what I can do in this hardwood, this is a poplar, again, it's nice and strong, is we can do a variety of pin sizes. So I'm just gonna go in here, and for this one, just save my wrist, I'm gonna use these little channel lock ones. There's a vice lock, I believe. I keep saying channel lock, I don't think that's right. But anyways, if I grab a nice strong grip there and then push and give it a wiggle as I push, it goes down. And I can do a variety of heights on here. So maybe I'll go from tall to short, something like that. There's no one size fits all for this. Whatever heights you end up needing, could be varied. But I find if there are different heights, you'll have some pieces that have like a big feathered hairdo, or long fingers, or just a little tiny, antenna or eyeball or something like that. So I just put a variety of things in here and then use them as needed. So grab this, go to the hole, push down, wiggle a little, not up. And this one I'll go a little bit shorter. And I think you'll find this, I actually haven't had one of these. I've been meaning to make one of these forever in my studio. And this is great. This is like forcing me to actually sit down and make some of these things that will greatly speed up my workflow. This will help you not lose things. This will help you not accidentally break or mess up a really nice piece that you've made, and you set it down somewhere, and maybe the way you set it down or the heat of the day melts it a little bit, and all of a sudden your piece is, the nice head that you sculpted is now flat on one side or smunched because you bump it or press or set something on top of it just barely on the table. And this stuff's really delicate, working with wax. That's the strength and the weakness of it, so this should be good. And I'm not using much of my armature wire is the other thing when I'm doing this. I'm just using like maybe a foot of the armature wire, which isn't much. There we go. And again, I'm not munching as I go. I'm being a little gentle with it. There's our series of 1/8 inch pins. Again, not going anywhere. If you're worried about the burrs on the ends of them, I could take the file and I could hit just the sharpest corner real quick, just to be sure I'm not accidentally catching myself. But I won't demo that for now, just for speed purposes. Now watch that comes back to bite me. That'd be funny. If you want something solid, you could get, this is 25 kilogram. What the gauge is this? A 16 gauge galvanized steel wire. This stuff is super strong. It will cut the crap out of you, so be careful with the steel wire. But if you wanted to have a wire post put in that isn't going to bend or flop too easily, you could use this one. So maybe I'll put that in a different one now. But I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that. Here's our 1/8 inch wire here. So I'll save this one and put it in maybe one of these other blocks. There we go. So the holes are already done. You can get some sanding blocks too. You get a whole pack of sanding blocks for, I think, $5. And I just sanded, after I drilled all these holes, I did a quick, what's called a spot sanding. A spot sanding is when you just quickly do a rotational sand on a little spot to get any debris out of the way. So for this one, instead of putting them in and then cutting them, I'm just going to cut them first. So that way they're already ready to go. So I'll spare you the straightening for these wires, and because the noise has got to be horrible on camera. And we'll just do a few of these here. And again, I'm just using like a foot of my wire to build one of these. So. It's good practice, you know. If you do this, it'll get you loosened up with the tools, and that way, when you go to build your good armature, you'll feel a little more confident because you can't really mess this up. Okay, and these are so skinny, I don't even need the lock. I could just use my regular needle nose, and I'll start farther away and work my way forward. Remember, if I go this way and then go across, I'm going to be going, you know, the harder path there. So always work where you have the least amount of things in between you and what you're doing. So even if I spin over that way, it would be a little smarter. And maybe I get it started with my fingers first. Let's see, these should be really nice and snug. And sometimes the burr, when you go 1/16 of an inch, you do need to file the burr because that little bit of the burr will prevent it from getting started in your pilot hole. So there, yeah, there it goes. Boom. So maybe I could do that for each of these. So I'll just go. And I'm just spinning it slightly as I push away from myself. That's it. If you'll notice, I'm just twirling it slightly as I go. Should I set these down? I find a piece I'm going to handle a lot, this little bit of filing step really is worth it, because you probably saw already in my earlier videos, I cut myself or poked myself about 4 times already. And even if it's not a bad one, it's not bleeding, you'll be going to sleep at night or you go wash your hands and you, what in the heck is wrong with my fingers? And you realize you jabbed yourself half a dozen times during your work day. And it's good to avoid doing that. So I have all these little pins. Again, use your tools, save your fingers if you can. Oops, don't do that. There we go, wiggle it in first. Yeah, when you know if it goes in that strong, it's not gonna be sliding out accidentally when you don't want it to slide out. And so the other thing you're learning by building one of these stands is when you build your armatures stands, you'll feel comfortable redoing the pins. A lot of times, if you want to do a really good pose for your character, you'll need to re-pin and re-drill where the foot goes into the armature stand, into the base. In order to do that, you end up making fresh pinholes, moving the foot around, and making adjustments. And usually the pins into the base is still the primary method for holding your sculpture up to keep it from falling over, right? So therefore, getting comfortable with this is super helpful. Yay, I have a little stand for all my little parts. Keep them from falling over anymore. I'm so happy. Okay, I got one little munch one. But yeah, these are meant to be, you know, bent and moved. You know, it doesn't matter if they're straight. You can, if you're working on a beak and I need to bend it forward and work on the beak, I can do that and then bend it back, like whatever. Use these as needed. So I think that gives us a pretty good grounding for the armature stands. This is what you're moving towards, right, for your midterm. Maybe it's a little bigger than this guy, but about this size. And here's the other. Look at the size. This is the thicker, right? That's with the 1/8 inch armature, and it's really like incredibly strong. Now the reason I made this guy, we'll talk about this character, but the reason I made the pin so strong is he's going in a larger vehicle, right? So we're gonna explore, like if you wanna make your character in a mech or riding a chariot or spaceship or, you know, some kind of slick Guardians of the Galaxy, flying surfboard, whatever. You have all kinds of options for that. Or maybe they're mounted and you have 2 animals, but this would be a good size. I left this one empty in the back because this character was going to be doing some crazy like action pose like that, right? So we'll kind of lead into that.